What do you think Tiger thinks when he sees Dustin Johnson hit it the way he hits it?
I'm sure it makes him sad. I mean, that, Tiger, all this, as it relates to his body and his golf swing. I mean, he's 42 years old, so age would have gotten him by now, but he pretty much did this to himself. I mean, he destroyed the greatest body in the game of golf, and he destroyed the greatest golf swing in the history of the game. So I'm sure he's sad. He's it's not that Tiger, changed his golf swing so much as like he barked up every single tree, and now it's like he can't even, he doesn't know where home is. He can't get back to where he once was, and you can see he's trying. He looks at Dustin, and Dustin has the most obvious physical advantages on the tour right now. Well, Tiger Woods used to be that person, and the way they've worked out was completely different. I don't know what Dustin's doing, but it's right. I don't know what Tiger did, but I'm pretty darn sure it was wrong.
I saw the interview with Butch Harmon and Curtis Strange yesterday, and Curtis asked about Tiger since Butch was his first main teacher, and he said, what I think it was, and I'm paraphrasing, kind of like what's holding Tiger back here, and he said ego, because Tiger still wants to hit it as far, if not farther, than everybody else, and I keep saying, if you have the mental capacity, remember he was the toughest guy mentally, great short game, he could putt, best putt, and like all these things.
Right.
Why wouldn't you just say, I'm going to beat you when I need to beat you, and that's on the green, instead of, mine's bigger than yours, I'm going to hit it 320 and you hit it 319. Like he's gotten into that and I think that's been to his detriment.
Well, I guess that's one take. I think Butch is he's a bright guy, and I think that's a reasonable take. Personally, I think it's a little different than that. I just think it boils down to maybe a little bit of that, but mostly in my mind, it's just technique. If his technique were as good as Dustin Johnson's or as good as his technique used to be, he'd be able to swing. He'd be able to hit shots the way Dustin Johnson's hit them, the way he used to be able to hit them. His technique's just not anywhere near as good as it used to be.
But he doesn't put it in the fairway, though, Brandel, and Dustin does.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like he doesn't put it in the fairway, not because he's swinging hard. He's not swinging any harder at the golf ball, I promise you, from a percentage standpoint than Dustin Johnson is or Henrik Stenson is. He's not. He's a smart guy. Tiger Woods is not out there flailing away. Tiger knows he needs to put a number on the board. He's not up there just indiscriminately swinging as hard as he can. He just can't do it because his technique is sabotaging him. So he's never been without a teacher. He's finally without a teacher. And I know that he's trying to swing like he once did. Well, it's not as simple as that. Nobody can do what they once did at 42. But at Jack Nicklaus, when Jack Nicklaus was 40, 41, 42, he was the best driver of the golf ball that ever lived, statistically ever. So, and that's because they had just started measuring the statistics. Imagine if they had statistics when Jack was 25. But Jack didn't change his body, and he didn't change his golf swing. So his swing lasted. Tiger's hasn't lasted because he chose to change it.
You ever think you'll get an invitation to the yacht, Tiger's yacht?
I don't think I'll be having crumpets and tea with Tiger on the dinghy.
He might invite you on to throw you over.
Hey, listen, I like Tiger. I know I'm sure he doesn't like me, but I'm a big fan. I have been sitting in a chair talking about Tiger Woods since 2004, and I've been talking about the greatest golfer ever, arguably one of the greatest athletes ever, who has decided to change the golf swing that made him the greatest player ever and change his body. I challenge anybody to sit there and talk about that every single night without saying it's the craziest thing in the history of sports. And it is. It's the craziest thing. Imagine if Michael Jordan changed his technique after 98, or pick any other superstar athlete who dominated and won at a level unlike anything anybody ever seen in sports, and they decided to change the technique that allowed them to do it and the body, not because they had to, but just because they were bored and wanted to. That's the craziest thing in the history of sports, not just golf. And so I've had to talk about it.
No, you did. You're just doing your job. And Tiger was...
That's right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, Tiger's best friends are some of the nicest people in the world. Nota Begay, Steve Stricker, John Cook. These are the nicest guys you ever meet in your life. I love those guys. They're great guys. They're friends of mine. So, Tiger, I have no doubt he's a nice guy. I'm sure he is. And I'm sure I'd like him. I just doubt that he'd like me.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.